Hi, I've made a quick simple video showing how to calculate the gearing on a T5 transmission. I've drawn a diagram here to simplify what we're looking at. We're looking at the counter shaft, which is the solid gear set at the bottom of the case. We have the main shaft, which consists of the input shaft and the other three gears inside the case. Fifth gear outside the case on the counter shaft and fifth gear outside the case on the main shaft. Here's how you calculate the gearing. Fourth gear is always engaged in all gear combinations. So you take the number of gear teeth on the counter shaft, fourth gear, and you divide it by the number of gear teeth on the input shaft. In our example for an S10 transmission, it's 37 on the counter shaft and 21 on the main shaft or input shaft. So 37 divided by 21. Then you multiply times the gear you're trying to calculate the ratio of to figure what the gear is. In fifth gear here, we have an example of 25 gear teeth on the main shaft. So you multiply 37 divided by 21 times 25, and then 61 on the counter shaft. So 37 divided by 21 times 25 divided by 61. And in our example down here, we have that calculation comes out to 0.722. That's a very nice overdrive gear for an S10 transmission. Well, what about first gear? Well, we'll use the same method of calculation. The counter shaft on fourth gear divided by the input shaft gear teeth times the number of teeth on the input shaft first gear divided by the number of gear teeth on the counter shaft first gear, and we come up with 3.759, which is a very nice first gear for an S10 transmission. Well, what about a V8 Camaro? Well, if we take a V8 Camaro, we find out that the gear teeth on the counter shaft and input shaft are different. It's a different ratio. We got 31 and 24, not 37 and 21. So if you took this gear set fifth gear from the S10 transmission and you try and put it in a V8 Camaro transmission, well, instead of a 0.72 overdrive, you come up with a different number of a 0.60. So in my example, I'm showing that you can't just swap fifth gear from one transmission to another transmission and expect the gears to stay the same unless fourth gear counter shaft and fourth gear input shaft are very, very similar or exactly the same as the one that the fifth gear donor came out of. Well, that's how you calculate an input shaft. That's how you calculate a transmission T5 gearing from looking inside the case. Again, 37 counter shaft divided by 21 input shaft, fourth gear, times whichever gear you're trying to figure out. In this case, let's go second gear. So you would multiply times 31 and then divide by 24. And that would give you the calculated gear ratio for second gear. Well, that's it for now. I hope you understood what I'm attempting to explain.